Unless you've been on Mars for the last week or so in a cave with your eyes shut and your fingers in your ears, I'm sure you've noticed that Sinn Féin have been in the news. How could you not know that Sinn Féin are in the news when it seems that RTE are doing their absolute best to show the current government that the €725 million taxpayer-funded bailout was worth every penny, while the rest of the media are all too eager to join in. The topic of TD and Public Accounts Committee Chairman Brian Stanley resigning from Sinn Féin has been headline news, and a huge talking point for all the major news outlets and political parties looking to take potshots at Sinn Féin. This was followed closely by the truth being revealed about the resignation of Niall Donnghaile. Now, before I go any further, I fully support and welcome the robust questioning of politicians and the behaviour of political parties and their members by the media. I have been calling for transparency and accountability ad nauseum on this channel from day one. The issues which are facing Sinn Féin absolutely need to be questioned and scrutinised. So seeing Mary Lou MacDonald face a grilling on these issues was very much welcome. That is the type of journalism I want to see in Ireland, although I could have done without the interviewer on Morning Ireland, Mary Wilson, being overly snarky and interrupting Mary Lou MacDonald repeatedly. Interrupting is grand when the person is going off on a tangent or not answering the question, or answering the question they'd rather answer, but most of the time the interruptions came while Mary Lou MacDonald was actually answering the question, and quite frankly I wanted to hear the rest of her answer. But look, not everyone can be Vincent Browne, and I can't argue that it was robust questioning, which is welcome and needed, even if it did meander into redundant questioning at times. The issues surrounding Sinn Féin at present are entirely worthy of scrutiny. Personally, while I feel the Brian Stanley story has been blown out of proportion, the Niall Donnghaile story very much required investigation by the media. With Brian Stanley, I feel the events have been explained as fully as they can be, and it would appear, to me anyway, that Stanley feels hard done by given the preliminary results of the internal inquiry of gross misconduct against him. I can't see how referring the matter on to the Gardaí as a precaution is a bad thing. Yes, there was a delay, but it seems the delay was by Stanley himself, as he was advised on foot of the counter-allegations made by him that he should go to the Gardaí, and he chose not to for whatever reason. When have Fianna Fáil or Fine Gael ever referred a matter on to the Gardaí about one of their members when they really should have? The Niall Donnghaile story, however, yeah, that was deserving of its time in the spotlight. It's a tale of two halves in my opinion. At first, it seems like Sinn Féin did everything right. As soon as a complaint was made against O'Donnell by a 17-year-old party member regarding inappropriate texts in September 2023, the party acted swiftly to refer it on to the PSNI and advised the teenager to retain all messages to show to the PSNI. O'Donnell was suspended from the party. All good so far. The PSNI then told the party that there was to be no formal investigation and that the teenager was content with the sanctions taken by Sinn Féin. Again, all good so far. The problems, however, arise in the aftermath. At the time of his suspension from the party, O'Donnell was on leave from the Seanad on the advice of his doctor for mental health issues. He resigned from the Seanad and the party in December 2023, which he said he felt was warranted and was done in consultation with the party, in what could be seen as him jumping before being pushed. The issues arise with the statement made by Mary Lou MacDonald at the time, in which she thanked him and wished him well. There was no mention from MacDonald or O'Donnell himself as to the real reasons behind his departure, other than for health reasons. So the question that has been rightly asked since the truth has been revealed is, why did Sinn Féin not disclose the reasons that led to his resignation? Now, MacDonald has explained it as follows. She said that Mr. O'Donnell had been suffering from a mental health crisis and that publicly naming him would be very dangerous for his health, and she said that she still holds those concerns. Now, Mary Lou MacDonald has given this explanation at length multiple times over. At this point, you either understand and agree with her reasonings or you don't, but the answer won't change. Personally, I can understand her reasoning, but I still don't agree with it. It's not a good look no matter what way you slice it, given the seriousness of the complaint. While I can understand the mental health reasoning, transparency is critical for the public to have trust in political parties, especially over issues such as this regarding child safeguarding. Now, I will give Mary Lou MacDonald credit where it's due though. Regardless of whether you accept her version of events and explanation, politicians, she has placed herself as leader of Sinn Féin front and centre, and has answered every question put to her. She has not shied away from scrutiny, and it would appear has welcomed it. Can we say that the leadership of government parties have ever done the same? Yeah, didn't think so. And it's not that they haven't had reason to, it's just that Micheál Martin, Simon Harris and Leo Varadkar before him would rather simply issue statements than put themselves in a position where they might have to answer tough questions. But ultimately, the issues surrounding Sinn Féin have been questioned at length, answers, explanations and reasonings behind decisions have been given, and I can't really see how any further information could be gained at this point. The media have done their job well here. They have dissected the stories and gained as much information as possible. However, and this is a big however, where the hell has this vim and vigour been when it comes to dealing with government parties? I have seen Sinn Féin leader Mary Lou MacDonald answer more questions about Brian Stanley on RTE programming alone in the space of a few days than I've seen questions put to Taoiseach Simon Harris about the abhorrent handling of the spinal surgery scandal since he made and then broke that promise to children in 2017. I'm just looking for some consistency here. The doggedness of the media this past week or so in questioning Sinn Féin over these issues should not be an anomaly. They should not be unusual. They should be the rule rather than the exception, the baseline, the absolute minimum level of scrutiny for all political scandals and failures across all parties. My channel is full of examples of me tearing my hair out wondering why on earth no one in the established news media is holding the government to account on, well, anything. I want to see that same type of coverage and dissection from the media when it comes to the many and varied failures of the government parties as well. Where was this persistence and determination to find the truth or hold the government to account during the many scandals they have presided over? I'm still waiting for Simon Harris to answer tough questions on the scoliosis and spinal surgery scandal. I'm still waiting for Leo Varadkar to be grilled over his leaking of confidential documents. I'm still waiting for Simon Harris or Leo Varadkar to adequately explain any of the various questions surrounding the National Children's Hospital and the absurdly wasteful spending on it. I'm still waiting for Simon Harris to be forced to explain why his party have chosen John McGahn as a candidate for the next general election when he has been embroiled in several unsavoury stories, to say the bloody least. Or how about hounding Paschal Donoghue to explain his secret meetings and secret phone calls? I'm still waiting for Roderick O'Gorman to answer questions of why his department deleted reports pertaining to the welfare of children in state care, or why he is doing nothing about the very serious child protection issue of grooming gangs targeting vulnerable children in state care. I'm still waiting for Micheál Martin to answer questions on Niall Collins and Robert Troy. I'm still waiting on Micheál Martin to answer why he thinks he doesn't have to declare his properties. I'm still waiting for Micheál Martin to be grilled on his outrageous claim that we didn't bail out the banks. And I'm still waiting on Micheál Martin to explain why the party stood by on Ceann Comhairle Sean O'Farrell in the aftermath of his reference for a convicted paedophile. Or what about the Fianna Fáil councillor who wanted to shoot all the rioters in the head? Or how about Minister for Normalising Homelessness answering a few tough questions on the ever-increasing homeless figures and the fact that over 4,000 children in this state are now homeless? Should I go on? I could. There's plenty more to be asked of government. Where did the €19 million go that was supposed to reduce spinal surgery wait times? Why did a bike shelter cost the same as the median price of a house? And crucially, who signed off on it? And on and on and on it goes. I've probably forgotten loads, but you get the idea. Where was the wall-to-wall coverage and the extensive grilling of the politicians involved in any of the issues I've just listed? And I might point out, this is a double-sided issue. On the one hand, we have government politicians who go into hiding whenever a scandal arises, where all they do is issue statements and sound bites, or, to paraphrase the man who can't remember his own name, Niall Collins, to give the answers they are prepared to give. On the other hand, we have a media who won't hold them to account, but will go all out on the biggest threat to the status quo in Sinn Féin. Perhaps the media are afraid that Micheál Martin might have another conniption like he did when the ditch dared to show up his ministers as morally and ethically bankrupt liars. Or that they might have to apologise for asking tough questions like RTE had to when they dared to question Paschal Donohoe on children's shoes. I just want consistency here. Is that too much to ask for? Instead, we have the media just repeating and regurgitating whatever message comes from government benches. Of course the government are going to lay into Sinn Féin over this. That's entirely predictable, and it's just politics, isn't it? But when their own hypocrisy is ignored so that the media can run a shiny soundbite, well, it's worrying. Where are the standards? As an example, the Business Post tweeted the following: Mary Lou McDonald's account that she did not know the nature of a complaint made against Brian Stanley is not really credible, Paschal Donohoe has said, with an accompanying article where not once did they question whether Paschal Donohoe can really talk about credibility when he hides so much from the public. That's all I'm asking for, some pushback on the hypocrisy. But it's hard to believe our media can rein themselves in and attempt some impartiality when they are all too eager to join in on the Sinn Féin bad rhetoric. I mean, just look at the pure hyperbole posted by the Irish Independent. It is undoubtedly the political scandal of the year, but could this also be the moment that defines Mary Lou McDonald's political career? Now, if that's not giddy hyperbole, I don't know what is. No doubt I'll be called a shinner by some in the comments for saying this, but it is an objective fact that no, this past week for Sinn Féin is not the political scandal of the year, and honestly, if you think otherwise, well, it says a lot more about your own political biases than it does about mine. For my money, the scoliosis scandal and the neglectful and downright callous treatment of those children and their families by our current government is by far the biggest political scandal, and should be the issue that brings down government. But it won't, because for whatever reason the media don't seem to want to question the government over it. And there are plenty of other scandals vying for second place, none of which involve Sinn Féin. So while Sinn Féin's issues are entirely their own making and absolutely should be thoroughly questioned in the media, until the media apply the same journalistic standards and relentlessness to the rest of Dáil Éireann, well, it all just comes across as a circus, and an incredibly biased one at that, doesn't it? No doubt with an election due to be called any day now, it seems, the attacks on Sinn Féin will increase. Sinn Féin absolutely must do better, but that doesn't mean that the media can have a field day while ignoring the many scandals and crises caused, enabled and exacerbated by this government. But the concerted effort of our media to paint Sinn Féin in as poor a light as possible while glossing over everything else does make me wonder just how sure they are of the polls. I mean, for months now we've been told that Sinn Féin are slipping badly and that Fine Gael are surging ahead, and yet here we are with issues being dragged out long after answers have been given to keep the biggest opposition party in the news for all the wrong reasons. Worry perhaps? Well, we'll just have to wait and see, I guess. Either way, the media in this country have a long way to go to prove to me at least that they can be unbiased and useful. I'm not for 1 second saying that Sinn Féin should not have been questioned, they absolutely should have. What I am saying, however, is that the grilling of Sinn Féin this past week should be the baseline and the minimum standard of questioning when a scandal emerges, regardless of which side of Dáil Éireann it originates. And until we see that, we will be forced to continually question the motives of a willing media, one which has far too cosy a relationship with those in power. So what do you think? Have Sinn Féin and Mary Lou McDonald answered the charges put to them in a satisfactory manner? Have they failed to answer anything you think still needs addressing? Has the media acted fairly and in an unbiased manner while pursuing this story? Do you trust the media to scrutinise and interrogate government parties when the need arises? Or do you, like me, believe they'll constantly fall short in this regard? Let me know in the comments below. Don't forget to like, share, subscribe and hit that bell icon to be notified of new content. If you want to support the channel, you can buy me a coffee or a super thanks, which is greatly appreciated, and a huge thank you to those of you that already have. You can also follow me on Twitter. Until next time, slán go fóill.